Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel presented by the JeopardyFan.com. We have quite a panel for us this evening once again. I am Andy Saunders. I will be moderating tonight's discussion as best I can, trying to keep things going off the rails too much. If you saw the last one, it was quite popular with some of our viewers. But I did some calculations beforehand, and our panel tonight won 34 regular season games and almost $900,000 in winnings, and that doesn't even count the tournament champions. So, Here is our panel tonight discussing the most recent week of Jeopardy episodes. That is the quarterfinals of the 2015 Tournament of Champions. We have, from the tournament this year, Dan Feitel. Once again, congratulations on your recent engagement.
Thank you. My lovely fiancée Natalie is just off stage right here, following along.
Ooh. Also joining us on our panel this evening,
Catherine.
Catherine was able to make it. Awesome.
Sorry, I totally forgot about it.
Catherine Hardy, also a semi-finalist. Congratulations on your victory on Monday, I believe it was. Also, from this tournament, we have Kerry Greene, Manchester, New Hampshire.
Hey, everybody.
Very popular victory on Thursday for many reasons I'm sure we'll get into. We also have Kristin Sausville, who unfortunately did not make the semifinals. She ruled out for, she is the wild card for the semifinals this coming week.
Alternate.
Oh, yes. Oh, my bad. Yes. I swear I haven't had that much to drink this evening. Okay, thank you for correcting me. I always make one mistake. From the previous Tournament of Champions, we have John Pearson, Mr. Learn Me Good.
Hey, happy to be here.
And also the foremost expert on this planet in terms of wagering strategy, Sarah McNitt.
Hi, everybody.
And last, and certainly not least, one of the champions, 9-time champion. I got it right this time. Jason Keller.
What's up?
From the 2013 tournament. Actually just came back from Perth a couple of days ago. It's not where I was supposed to be, but for a myriad of reasons, I was unable to go. And finally, the archivist, import moderator, David Kendall.
Contributing to exactly zero of that $900,000.
By the way, if you have anything you'd like to say to our panel, any questions you'd like to ask, feel free to use the hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel on Twitter, and we will be happy to answer them. Wow, that was quite a, I have to say, I'm just going to open, that was quite a week of shows. My first question, for those of you who were in the field, was there anything you thought was going to make it to tape that was left on the cutting room floor? Don't worry, I'm going to ask if there was anything that surprised you made it to air later, but,
Yeah, I was really surprised that they left in no mention of the fact that John's buzzer broke in his game against Matt and Jennifer. I'm surprised that, they didn't have something where, any kind of reference to it, really, because they said it had never, ever happened before in Jeopardy history. And even just, for the archive purposes, I'm kind of bummed that it wasn't officially acknowledged on air.
You realize that, now, I have to say, Kristen, the show doesn't seem to be very good at actually pointing out properly the historic things, because apparently you only had the second ever single-player Final Jeopardy.
No, I am personally acquainted with 2 other people to whom it happened. Apparently I'm the second.
I think there's actually 5 or 6.
It's something like that, yeah.
5 or 6? Yeah.
Because it happened a few times, in the first few seasons of the show, and then it didn't happen until until 2005, I think, in the UTOC. And then it happened in 2011, and then it happened this year.
And how many times has Alex gone on here and did acknowledge something that has happened never before, and then did the exact same thing the next time it never happened before?
And I knew, like, don't correct him, don't tell him that, like, somebody else is in the audience to whom it happened, and I know somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, just let it go,
Yeah, never correct Alex.
Yeah.
Well, unless you're Matt.
Well, yeah.
Matt does that, My 8th win.
Yeah.
Yes, I think Matt has earned the right to correct Alex Trebek.
I'm sure John and Jennifer were hoping the curse was going to kick in right then.
Well, if they had acknowledged that John's buzzer broke, then they would also have to acknowledge that they stop things during taping and that there are pauses and edits. It would have killed all the illusion that it happens seamlessly every time.
They did a very good job of covering it up. I didn't notice it the first time. I had to watch it the second time to see, oh, yeah, that's where it broke. Because I didn't notice it the first time. They did a good job of covering it up.
Well, I kind of noticed there's like a weird edit, and then John looks kind of frazzled for a couple clues or so.
Yeah.
I would also say that
I think I heard a slight ping to prove that they said it happened that.
What amazing.
You said you were trying to say something. Sorry.
what?
You were trying to say something there.
Yeah, no, what I was just going to say is I also think that if it were announced, I'm sure that there would have been a whole sort of, viral, possibly negative attention, the way, we could have had another, was that $5 or 5,000? Where people would be like, oh, well, Matt had an unfair advantage because the broken buzzer was actually not working.
I do want to say, I think John showed amazing by being able to come back from that and get a wild card against Matt.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Now, Catherine, I kind of, you obviously, you won your game on Monday, and therefore you got to sit there and kind of relax through 4 episodes.
Yeah.
How was that feeling, and compare it to everyone else who was kind of on pins and needles for a wild card?
Well, I definitely am. I would not have wanted to be in Dan's or Mom's shoes during that whole day of taping, especially with the Twice as Long show for Matt, the buzzer, the great buzzer conundrum of 2015. I can't imagine what they were going through, because I was just sitting there sitting pretty like, this is cool. I get to watch games of Jeopardy. I don't have to worry about playing again. I don't have to worry about playing Matt, which was my big fear coming in. I'm gonna have to play Matt. I'm gonna lose. This is gonna be awful. And so I was just kind of I felt good, and it was wonderful because I went to the commissary and I was actually able to eat food, and not because when I was taping, I've never been able to eat during any sort of competition or anything. So I was just like, cool. Hey, I'm hungry. I can actually enjoy my food today. This is fantastic.
We may be getting back to that thought of, I avoided Matt Jackson in about, half an hour or so, when we previewed the semifinals. However, Dan, you were on the other end of that one, holding down the last wild card spot for most of the day of taping. What's it like being on that bubble position?
At first, after I finished the first episode and I got my final Jeopardy, I had 14,000. I just figured I was golden. I had looked at some old TOCs and seemed like 12,000 was generally a safe amount. So I aimed to beat that by a healthy margin. And so after the first episode, I thought, well, this is great. I'm exactly where I feel comfortable being. So I'm going to enjoy the rest of the day, and that lasted for all of one episode. And then by Wednesday's episode, all of a sudden I was realizing, oh my God, these scores are just insanely high this year, and I'm going to be hanging on by a thread when it comes down to the last game. Just incredibly stressful sitting there watching and just rooting so hard for Alex Jacobs to get every single clue so that there was no money left on the board for anybody else. He wouldn't oblige because he does that thing, I feel like, where he kind of like takes his foot off the gas towards the end of the round when he's already cleaned up all the high value clues, and then he's just like letting everyone get the 200s and the 400s. I was like, stop, Alex, keep buzzing in. Come on in. What's that?
I was saying he's a strategy master.
Yeah, definitely. But so, it was just incredibly harrowing. But, thankfully it all worked out for me in the end. But yeah, my heart was in my throat the whole time, for sure.
I was sitting behind you, and I could tell it was you were like for Final Jeopardy, the last game. You were just you looked so tense, and I just felt so bad for you because I could not imagine what that must have been like. And
gosh, it was.
Thank goodness for Pandora, right?
Well, I know, and I saw Greek mythology come up as a topic, and I just figured there's no way. Like, how hard can they make Greek mythology? I feel like those guys all probably were really strong in that subject, and I had basically given it up when I saw that. And then I read the question, and I was like, what the fuck is that? Maybe there's hope. But yeah, it was still stressful all the way to the end, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, both you and John were, on pins and needles. You could tell. You were both just clutching your hands, and it looked like you were praying.
Pretty much.
Did you jump up in your seat when they announced the quarterfinalists or the wild cards?
Well, I knew it was. I didn't jump up when they announced it, but when I did see that both Michael and Scott had gotten the question wrong, and I knew I had made it. I think I put my hands up in the air, and I remember.
You were in the Monday game?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you would have seen what the spot was. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And so I just remember putting my hands up in the air and feeling someone's like hands on my shoulders, saying, "Congratulations, congratulations." I don't even know who it was, to be honest. But yeah, it was
I'm kind of
So, I guess my next question for you guys, this kind of I'll let Jason ask it because you kind of had it a little bit, kind of in terms of Thursday's final, I believe, in terms of the reaction to Thursday's final.
Yeah, because one thing, when in my Tournament of Champions semifinal, the first Final Jeopardy in the semifinals was a very obvious clue about Dave Brubeck's Take 5. And I don't know if it was me just doing it on behalf of everyone, but I felt like there was a collective groan in the bullpen when that came up. I felt like that Whistler's Mother thing as well was like something that was definitely like a collective groan-worthy sort of thing.
Well, maybe someone can correct me on this, but I thought they were asking for the title of the painting, and only Andrew actually gave the title of the painting.
I thought that too.
So
I was sure they weren't going to count it, but I knew it had an actual official name. I just didn't know what it was.
Right.
That's kind of a they didn't actually say official title since it's well known enough as that. I would have accepted that.
I was hoping they wanted the official title. But
yeah.
Right.
Not me.
Sorry.
But yeah, no, we all did. I remember we all kind of sat there and thought, "Damn, that was a pretty, that was a relatively easy get if they accept Whistler's Mother." And all of us who were potential wild cards were definitely groaning a little bit, But the thing is that all the scores were so high going into Final Jeopardy that I'm not even sure. I don't know what the bet wages were. I'm not sure that it even mattered.
I don't think looking back that it did.
Yeah, I think Andrew and Kerry would have been in no matter what.
Right.
Well, actually,
they must have one.
If I had gotten it wrong, then Dan, you and I would have tied. Exactly. We would have had 14,000.
And you would have beaten me because I think you were ahead. But that would have been
Right,
much harder
yeah.
for me to lose. So.
But I didn't know that until afterwards, and it was like I thought 14 was, still quite safe, and it was shocking to find out where the line was. So.
12 was safe.
Right, exactly. I mean, Kristin's strategy was, based on 12,
and nobody could blame her for that. I would.
Right, exactly. That was completely rational based on what it had been in the past. So.
I remember coming bouncing off stage after my game, like, "Yay, I did it, awesome!" And I sat down next to Catherine. I'm like, "Oh, hey, how'd the game go?" And she told me like that she won. I was like, "Okay, that's awesome. What were the other scores?" And she told me, and I was like, "Oh, oh, I see how this is gonna go." But I left the stage happy, so I guess like that's priceless or something, right?
You had your moment of joy.
Yeah.
So, I guess, obviously, Vaughn Winchell was hoping to be able to make the panel tonight, but he was unable to. But he kind of was hoping that there might be a bit of a discussion about what I'm about to bring up. His kind of thesis is that, and this is kind of why I brought in Sarah and Jason and John a little bit. His thesis was that the 2014 Tournament of Champions was actually too hard, and that and basically this is just the 2015 tournament was kind of more of a normal difficulty, but everyone was spooked out of 2014, and therefore that set the strategy for everyone. That's how I take it to mean, but I guess this is a two-parter. To this year's tournament class, were you expecting harder boards? And to the previous tournament class, do you think this year's tournament was significantly easier in terms of the quarterfinals than your own tournament? I think we can start off with, sorry, Kristin, you were going to say something?
I was expecting a lot harder. Although I would like to say like the finals this week were really hard. Yeah.
Well, I would agree with it. With the exception of Thursday's final, the entire week was pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that, I didn't see the first three games until this week. Mm-hmm. So, and I thought the first game, Catherine and Dan and Vaughn, that was impressive and difficult. And, I was watching it and I was like, I'm glad I wasn't playing that night. My game I thought was fairly, normal as far as, oh, okay, I'll just, kind of keep clicking and try to answer. And it didn't appear a lot harder to me. But I know maybe I was just so hyped up at that point that, I wasn't able to judge well.
Yeah, I watched the last year's Tournament of Champions when it aired again in the summer, and I was watching the games, and I was like, I know I watched this when it aired last year, and I still don't know the answers to these questions. I am so screwed. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna go to the Tournament of Champions. If I'm lucky enough to get in, I'm gonna go, and I'm just gonna stand there and look like an idiot because I felt like those games were so tough. They were so tricky, and I felt like I knew so little of the material, and I was just thinking, wow, I did not remember how tough the Tournament of Champions was. So I was going into it, I was pretty intimidated, which is one of the reasons I was both happy and terrified to be in the first game, because it meant I didn't have a whole day of anticipation, which was good, but then I didn't have any time to psych myself up or anything. So I just got out there, and then I was like, hey, I know these. I wasn't able to get in all the time when I wanted to because it's very difficult to get the buzzer down against two people like Dan and Vaughn who are very fast. But I was like, I do know the answers to these questions, so yay. Except for final. I had no idea. But yeah, and my wager was to create a fourth level wager. Apparently people thought I put a whole lot of thought into that and just really thought it through. I was standing there going, I don't want to wager much. What's a nice round number that's not very much? I'm writing $200 down because I can't think about this anymore. I promise. There was no way was that a strategic wager at all. It was just, I need to write something down because any second now Maggie's going to come hover over my shoulder. And
Keith is going to be so disappointed.
I should have I let him think. Oh yeah, no, that was actually brilliant wagering strategy. I totally thought about how much Vaughn was going to wager. Yeah, no, I thought that through completely. Yeah, I did.
So, John and Sarah, I guess your impressions on your own.
Well, I'm glad that you said that Vaughn made that comment about last year's being hard, and that it's not just me with the whole stage versus couch syndrome. Because sitting on my couch this year, I've found the tournament, while certainly not easy, much easier than last year. And I had Monday's game last year, so I got to see all of the quarterfinals. And I was sitting next to Andrew Moore, actually, who had lost the second semifinal last year, and he turned to me at one point and said, "Is it just me, or is this incredibly difficult?" And we talked about how we had both poured through the archives of previous year's tournaments, and this was like nothing that we had seen before. It just seemed incredibly difficult. I'm a teacher. I have summers off. I dedicated last summer entirely. I treated it as a second job. I spent my summer at the library studying. And almost nothing that I studied actually came up in the Tournament of Champions. I think there was one World Capitals question in the entire tournament. I think there was like one Shakespearean question in the entire tournament. It was incredibly difficult. And this year's quarterfinals have been certainly enjoyable to watch, but I found them much more gettable. With the actually, Kerry, I thought yours was the most difficult game. I thought Thursday was a really difficult board, and then you had the super easy final Jeopardy. But I was going to say earlier to Dan's comment, I was going to say I think the writers must do that once per year, because during our quarterfinals, and Sarah can corroborate on this or not, but the Friday quarterfinal, which was opera, which turned out basically to be what opera had a brother and a sister in it, was kind of laughable. And it was just like, well, okay, everybody's getting in from the other ones were really difficult.
Ooh. Oh, I think he just accidentally disconnected, but, hey, Sarah, what are your thoughts?
I was in the Thursday game last year, which was a real just stinker of a game. A lot of triple stumpers, like almost an entire category about sailing that went unanswered. And at one point I just rang in because I felt like, oh, somebody's got to ring in on something in this horrible category. I hope
it wasn't a high-value clue that you did that with.
I think it was something that, like, when I rang in, I felt really confident about it, and then I reread the clue as Alex was calling on me, and I was like, oh, I don't know that at all. That's not what I thought it was asking for. So, that was just awful. And so then that was the only game. I was in the Thursday game. I had no idea what had come before, and then we had the Friday game afterwards with the Hansel and Gretel thing, and I was like, man, how come I couldn't have gotten something like this? I knew that one. So, but I also wonder if the Battle of the Decades had something to do with it. If the writers got into a certain tournament mindset and didn't switch it off for the Tournament of Champions or something.
Now, Jason, you obviously have had the opportunity to watch the previous two tournaments from home.
You know what? I'm kind of failing on the recollection. I mean, here's where. So for what it's worth, I mean, the last two tournaments of champions before this one, and I'm just talking about Final Jeopardies here. My Tournament of Champions, I would have had a clean sweep. I was 10 out of 10. The following Tournament of Champions, I was 10 out of 10. This Tournament of Champions, I actually missed two finals this week. One of them was just me being overdone. The other one was just I couldn't pull the Pandora thing. So in that aspect, I do think that actually, and I know that it has been said that it seems the finals were actually quite a bit more difficult, especially the finals that came up during my prelim. I felt like they were all in the quarterfinals were actually on the easy side. As far as content, I think I'd have to go back and look at the 2014. I'm also operating on my own planet, I think. Because I definitely, and obviously I know that you all have to play whatever they give you. I do feel like the difficulty this year is down even from my year. And I'm just saying that, I'm just looking at, and maybe I'm not seeing the whole thing, looking at just things like certain geography things or certain things like that where I'm like, that seems like, things might be a little out of place. But yeah, for what it's worth, yeah, my Tournament of Champions aired was taped right after a team tournament. So I do think that in some cases that wasn't necessarily left. One thing that I was I mentioned to Kristin personally, I was not a fan of her Double Jeopardy board because the feminist nicknames thing I thought was really bad, and the cryptic crossword clues that at least to me I would have gone that they were going to be different from what they were.
Yeah, the feminist one was kind of tough. It was.
I thought what was just so bad about it. It was like, okay, we're giving you basically diminutives. Can you think of a feminist who has that formal name?
Well, that's the thing. Like, it was difficult because you had to make two associations. You had to go nicknames.
But and also, it's
like ironic. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like it would have been just better if they had just done like a straight category about feminists and actually something edifying. Like,
what ended up being ironic about it was like the double association. Yeah. It was great for a daily double because I have time to think about it. I'm not trying to ring in. Nobody else is going to beat me to this, and then it worked. It's like the daily double ended up being the easy one in that category.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't. Other than that category, which outside of the daily double format, I didn't think worked. I was okay with the rest of it.
As I said, I kind of looked through it after I came back and I was like, eee.
Well,
I sometimes feel like I'm operating on my own little planet here.
No, well, I would say, in my own, watching that game, from my couch, there was a lot of what are they asking here for the first two questions, and then
just another little impression. I don't know if it's just me and I'm again just being unaware of this, but I felt like it's more of a, if I were writing these, I think they'd have come out differently, and it's just I'm on a different wavelength from what the writers are doing.
So, one thing that I didn't, I'm now looking at my notes a little bit. Was there anything that you guys that made it to air that you guys were surprised made it to air?
Well, of course, there's the blacks versus the grays.
The blacks versus the grays.
2015 controversy. That one, I never thought that would make it. I was shocked.
No.
We all were just sitting there, and because it was everybody in the audience except for the three who were playing. It was like, did he just say that? Well, they'll have to cut that out.
Alex, that was such an Alex thing to do.
Yeah, and the more he tried to patch it up, the worse it got.
Yep. Let's put it this way. I looked back this morning at Dan's drinking game, and I thought, dang, I would have been there's my first drink gone.
Yeah, I wanted to do it so you have to finish your drink within the first 5 minutes of.
Yeah, well, I think Vaughn was in the audience going, "Oh, Uncle Alex."
Yeah, that was an Uncle Alex moment.
Yeah, that was
so other than that, I don't know. That one just, it's so prominent in my mind. I don't know if I can think of anything else.
Oh, I know. When he had the fight with the judges over whether Jennifer's answer was acceptable.
Oh.
You had like a full-blown hissy fit over that one.
But that didn't make it air, though.
Didn't make the air, no. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No. They edited.
So what was Alex's problem with that?
It was the Ford.
Yeah.
Robert, the Robert Ford, and she just said Ford, and he said just of his own volition, he was just like, no, that'd be more specific.
Well, he
the writers hadn't asked for a be more specific on just the last name. He just decided
for a $2,000 clue, or we're gonna need more than the last name.
Yeah.
It's just like that's not how it works.
Yeah. I never heard that rule before.
Ford.
Yeah, Maggie did not go over that in the green room beforehand.
I wish Bill McDonald were listening to this one, because I remember back in his Tournament of Champions, he was the question about Vice President Breckenridge. He was asked for be more specific.
Oh. How many Vice President Breckenridges have there been?
I never just the one.
I think he was trying to. Trying to be like, do you mean Vice President Breckenridge, or do you mean Myra Breckenridge?
Actually, come to think of it, I did get a bottom of the board clue on John Ford, where I just said Ford, and that was fine.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But so Alex had a full-blown hissy fit in his argument with the judges, and the judges won. So
yeah, the judges won, and then they had to retape it, and they decided to make it look like it was a thing, where she almost didn't get it in on time. Yeah, they decided to cover that.
I'd imagine that the judges always win.
Usually, I would say so.
Well, yeah, that's really not his job, So.
Yeah.
Oh.
This went on for like several minutes, though. This went on for like almost 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean they had a very, very long conversation about this, and it was like, because he said that, and then the judges erupted off screen like, wait, what are you doing? We're doing our job. This is not your job. This is our job. And so they just stopped tape there. It wasn't something where Maggie just then came on stage and she's just kind of, wait, what's going on? Why did you just do that? It was quite the scene.
Madness!
She's up against Matt Jackson. Let the lady have some money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think it made it tainted her experience of the whole tournament, and that's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Do you think that it might have had an effect on her to the from that point to the end of the game then?
I don't know, because I didn't see the game, live, so it's hard to judge. I don't know, Kristin, what do you think?
The one thing that I remember is that she came off stage, still, okay, and she asked us what the wild card scores were, and we had to tell her she was already out, and then she looked really upset.
Because she did stand up there afterwards. I listened to the, post-game chat, and she seemed fine then. I thought, well, she's a good actress, or,
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what kind of response it had from the people in the audience, especially the people in the audience who have not been to a Jeopardy taping before, where all this kind of stuff gets edited out, and we all see happy, smiley Alex all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But Johnny Gilbert is really good at talking the audience through that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Although, speaking of not happy Alex, when John's buzzer broke and we had a long delay, Alex was definitely, he didn't take it well, and I think the audience could see how unhappy he was. He was kind of making some, snide comments about how the crew is usually good at making the episodes come together, but they kind of blew it this time. It was.
I
But
forgot.
again, if you've just known Alex just from what you've seen on Jeopardy, seeing this other Alex doing tapings, and even if Alex isn't acting up during a taping and you see like all these delays and stuff, probably a kind of a bit of a shock for the first-time visitor.
It was the last show for that audience too. That audience at least went home afterward. But they had seen like the first two, and as far as I could tell, like I mean, the game that I was in, the second game, it went really smoothly. I don't think there were any glitches in that game. So.
Do they have a bar attached to the set, I wonder?
Yeah, by the way, we have a comment on the hashtag from June Pock. This one I think directed specifically at Jason. Which John Ford?
Which the director.
So June, he said the director. My next question, Kristin, what did you guys talk about in the post-game chat on Tuesday? Because I don't think that made online.
I have no idea. I really don't know. I can make up anything now because they're not going to post it. We just basically trashed everybody else. Everybody, and I mean, it's such a good thing.
That's why they didn't post yours.
Yeah, that's it. That's what we were doing. You know, Greg and Brennan, they're real trash talkers.
I'm also curious to know what they talked about on Friday, but I don't think that made it.
No, and Vaughn said he was able to listen to it on YouTube, but I looked and I couldn't find it. So
it was probably Alex saying, "I'm ready to go home."
Yeah, long damn day.
I mean, I remember my regular season at the end of on the Friday game. He was like, "I hope I can make it back home in time." The World Series was on at the time. He's like, "I hope I can make it back in time to catch the game." I was like,
last year during the 2014 TOC, Mondays, the one that I was in was the only one where they did not air the post-game comments. And I always wondered if it was because Alex gave us the true reason for shaving off his mustache, where he had told everybody that it was because of the survey, the online survey, should I keep it or should I not?
Yeah.
But during the post-credits, he admitted that he accidentally shaved part of it off in the shower, so he had to finish the job.
He's moved on to admitting that to the audience now. He told the audience that during one of my tape days. Yeah. I guess it was a big secret or whatever, and then he got used to telling you guys, and then gradually he grew more comfortable talking about it, and
Okay. Did any of you guys playing this week look at the questions and or the scores and think of changing your strategy on the fly? Thinking that, well, maybe if my game is like this, the other games might be like this.
No.
Wait, you mean for the next week? Sorry, I'm not sure.
No, I mean, sorry. Like, for example, like changing in the quarterfinals, like thinking, okay, well, this was a high-scoring game. I wasn't expecting that. Is the rest of the week going to be like this as well? I know. I mean, I'm thinking for the two of you, Dan and Catherine, playing Monday, you obviously wouldn't really have thought of that as much, but.
I mean, each game is for the player, it's like the first game because you've been sequestered in the green room all day, and all I remember in the green room that we could hear the applause during the daily doubles, but that's it. That's all the information that we had from the first game is that there was applause, So.
Okay.
Well, and we were watching really cool movies, so we were paying attention to that.
What did you guys watch?
Raiders of the Lost Ark, to which I know way more lines than I thought I did, and Terminator, which I had never seen, so that was awesome.
Were you just watching movies, or were you shooting the fat with the rest of the contestants?
Oh yeah, from time to time, mostly about the movies that we were watching. So.
There was like a little Mystery Science Theater 3000 happening in there.
Exactly, that's right.
Yeah, because that's how I can picture Jeopardy contestants would do it.
Except for Matt, who could not like sit and watch the movie. He was, kind of constantly in motion and.
For me, like when watching the movie, it was those movies are screened and like cleared so that nothing that's going to be in the tournament shows up in the movie, and because that would be an unfair advantage for the people who are playing in the later games. And so, like watching the movie, it was like, all right, that's not coming up. Great, that's not coming up. Like, there's like all these maps and stuff at the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm like, no, I wanted a map category.
I don't know how much you guys have been following the discussion on Twitter, but easily my favorite part of the Tournament of Champions is the hashtag FakeTOC 2015. I know John and Sarah, you guys had it too for yours, FakeTOC 2014. But do any of you guys have a favorite tweet from the FakeTOC hashtag this year?
All of them?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to say all of them.
Can I be vain and put up one of mine?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
I was particularly proud of, to distract everyone, Greg Soroka opens an amazing restaurant in the green room, which no one wants to leave.
I like the John Schultz, he's got Jeopardy tattooed on his fingers, and then I notice he leaves off the exclamation point. That one I thought was great.
Does anyone else have a favorite? Dan, I thought you were talking about it.
So sorry, what? I gotta be honest, I kind of missed the hashtag FakeTOC, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, well, you should look it up. There's some good ones there.
Twitterverse.
I'm trying to think. What was on there about Dan?
That was when Elliot and I were saying Elliot and I came to blows over who would play Satine in the Jeopardy production of Moulin Rouge. Elliot tweeted that, and I said, well, you have to admit that Dan brought it as Christian. And then
That's right.
And then Elliot tweeted about Matt being Toulouse-Lautrec.
Toulouse-Lautrec, actually.
Let's see. Some of my favorites. I'll leave out my own. But Ben Wiles with Kristin tries to pass off an I followed by Duval button as an immunity idol.
Yeah, I remember that one.
I always keep it handy now for live.
To be honest, the entire hashtag is worth it just for some of Jennifer Murrow's Photoshops.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The entire board full of potables for Kerry.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep. Elliot behind Alex's podium.
No, not just that. The podium says Elliot too.
Yes, it says Elliot. Ooh.
Of course, related to that is the whole campaign of trying to get Elliot into the Clue Crew.
Yes. Hey,
Think of my eligibility.
Kelly and Sarah both liked my tweet about how Elliot should join the Clue Crew. So
yes.
That's 2/3 the majority.
That's right.
Let's see. What else? Oh yes. Also the glitch where all empty podiums instantly spawn Kristin.
Yeah, I love that one.
It's a wagering number.
Ooh. Oh God. We have Alex Jacob as a notable, obviously.
Ooh, I kind of like this. Each quarterfinal winner has to name their favorite Spice Girl in order to adapt.
Yeah, that escalated quickly, let me just say.
So we have two people from that quarterfinal here. Do you want to say anything about the Spice Girl?
I've gotten so much more grief about that than anything else that ever happened on Jeopardy. It's just people are ashamed of me. It's terrible.
Catherine, I feel as though you were
wasn't
that
allowed
age.
to listen to, Spice Girls or anything. So, like, I know modern pop music because this is my rebellion, is listening to pop music in the radio in my car. So
So you obviously got Fetty really quickly.
yeah, well, I know who Fetty Wap is because this dreadful, dreadful song that I hate so much kept coming on my radio, and I wanted to know what person was responsible for assaulting my and then I was like, that is, I mean, not to be, that I thought the name was interesting to say the least, so it kind of stuck in my memory. And then, of course, Jason Derulo is very easy to remember since he helpfully sings his name in every song. And, the thought briefly crossed my mind that if I really wanted to go viral, I should try to, do his little auto-tune thing. But then I'm like, no, I don't want to go viral for that because I am sure I don't think that would have turned out very well.
Then you went viral for Fetty Wap.
Anyway. So no, I don't feel badly about the Spice Girls because I've never listened to the Spice Girls and they don't form a part of my musical knowledge. So I can't feel ashamed about it because I just didn't know it, and I wouldn't have had any way of knowing it. So.
And all that time, probably the only person among the group who had paid money to go to a Spice Girls concert was in the group.
Yeah. Well, certainly I've never paid money to go to a Spice Girls concert, so.
Part of you wants, part of you might want the cash in that situation, but part of you might not want to embarrass yourself by, saying that.
I will admit I ran that category, and I would have been proud to have run that category on the air in the Tournament of Champions. So.
I would have been really, if that clue had been in my board, I would have been like, who are the Spice Girls? And I would have gone viral as being a horrible person.
Yeah, I'll just say I have never paid money to see the Spice Girls, but I would if the opportunity presented itself.
Thank you. I was trying to feel alone here.
No, I got so excited when they showed up at the Olympic closing ceremonies. They're getting the band back together.
Okay, so I have done some intrepid research over the past 24 hours and have managed to cobble together what I believe are the semifinal matchups. I do not believe they have been officially released yet, so this will be a fun thing. Once again, in case anyone from any official capacity is watching this, I got this from audience members who do not have any sort of ties to any contestants whatsoever. However, these are what I believe to be the semifinal matchups for next week. Of course, Monday we have, looks like, Kerry playing John and Dan. Tuesday we have Alex Jacob, Brendan Bushy, and Vaughn Winchell. Wednesday, Matt Jackson, Catherine Hardy, and Andrew Herringer. Herringer, sorry.
Only a Herring girl would know that. So.
Remember that by Herring Girl. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Vaughn's a Herring girl, so.
Everyone's a Herring Girl.
That's right.
They just don't know it.
Exactly. Because once you meet him, it's like, whew, yeah.
Yeah.
What can you do?
So,
this is true.
Okay. So let's see here.
They don't believe us. They totally don't believe us. I don't know how to make,
So, my question for Kerry and Dan. First up, because obviously it says you guys are playing Monday, and I find it interesting that nobody is like, this is incorrect. What are you talking about, Anthony?
It says that, but that doesn't make it true.
I know. It's assuming these are correct. What was your reaction to avoiding Matt Jackson and Alex Jacob when the semifinals were announced on the morning, when the first three contestants were announced for the semifinals? What was your reaction to avoiding Alex Jacob and Matt Jackson?
Well, it's not like I thought, I mean, Dan is young and fast, and, I didn't think anybody was going to be easy to beat. So, yeah, I suppose there was a little relief that, I mean, Matt, he's loud, he yells when and I didn't want to stand next to him because I didn't want him to yell in my ear, and, so it was like, okay, good, he won't be yelling in my ear. It wasn't like, it's not rational at that point, it's just...
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it was similar, although I wasn't as concerned about the yelling, I guess. But I think they were both, certainly from my perspective, the two kind of most daunting competitors, in the TOC that year. So, I mean, I would be lying if I said I wasn't like somewhat relieved that I wasn't going to be facing them in the semifinals because they were the two people who I was who I thought had the best shot of anyone. So in that sense it was a relief, but there's no question that I knew that whoever I was going to be going up against, assuming that this graphic that you have is accurate, we're going to be a big challenge, no matter what. So it wasn't like, oh man, I made it, I'm in the semifinals, it was more just, oh okay, this isn't the worst thing.
Now, in terms of the Tuesday semifinal, let's see here. I have a graphic here, one of Jennifer Morrow's famous Photoshops, actually, and it's somewhere around here. Here it is. I am going to screen share this because it is awesome and lovely, and this is my favorite. So once again... We have Ron Winchell playing a block of wood and a wedge of cheese. You may remember this joke started thanks to Megan Barnes and a comment Vaughn made on last week's live panel. So I ask you obviously know who Vaughn is in this semifinal. Of Alex and Brennan, who is the block of wood? Who is the wedge of cheese?
Whoa.
I have my theory. My theory is that Alex is the wedge of cheese because he is the sharp one. But
okay.
Neither of those has the hair.
Yeah.
Well, thank goodness. If your cheese had hair like that, that would be a bad thing.
By the way, if you're tuning in, if you have a theory as to who the block of wood and wedge of cheese is, please tweet us at hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel. And well, while we're waiting for the panel to come down, a couple of comments from the hashtag. Donovan says, I would not pay $4,000 for Spice Girls tickets.
Better seats for
However, he would pay something less than $4,000, so I presume he would at least go to a concert, maybe sit up somewhere in the nosebleeds at some arena.
I think you could find plenty of Jeopardy champions at Spice Girls concerts. I think, there are plenty who will sit it out, but there are many of us. We are legion.
Yeah.
So, once again, if you have a theory who the block of wood and wedge of cheese are, please tweet at us. Okay, now, of course, Catherine, you mentioned earlier about getting to avoid Matt Jackson. Assuming my graphic is true, could you speak of the possibility, well, I should say, I believe you told people you were airing on Wednesday, and Matt told people he was airing on Wednesday. So, by process of elimination, what are your thoughts on playing Matt Jackson?
Sorry, I didn't hear that last part, so I didn't catch what you asked me. But
oh, sorry. Basically, what I said.
By that point,
you told people that you were playing Matt. Sorry, you told people you were playing on Wednesday, and
yeah,
Matt has announced that he's playing Wednesday.
Yes,
so,
I did. Yeah. So yes.
So, your thoughts on playing?
Don't generally lie. So.
Mm-hmm. I was just asking. What were your thoughts when you?
Well, obviously, as soon as the
Tuesday?
I mean, at that point, it was just, there's no point in being intimidated or freaking out because there's nothing, you either go into it with confidence or you're going to fail. So, and we'd all become like pretty good friends by that point. So it was just like, okay, we're going to do this. I'm going to do my best. Whatever happens, happens. And I'm just going to go for it. You can let yourself, I wasn't going to let myself be intimidated at that point because there's no point in that. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, in that position also, you've got the extra half hour to kind of mentally prepare because as soon as the Tuesday game has been called up and playing. Also, if you look at my TOC and what happened in my semifinal game, you never know when something ridiculous is going to happen.
Like rock drummers.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was.
So yeah, I think
I don't think it's a spoiler to say it was a good game. So I can say I think that I'm proud of how I did without revealing anything, about outcomes or anything like that.
So, I am going to ask my next question out of those who were not part of the taping group for the Tournament of Champions. So, but for the rest of you, of the Tuesday and Wednesday players, who do you think might be most likely to pull off an upset against Matt Jackson or Alex Jacob?
So, theoretically.
Can you put up the list again?
Yeah,
certainly. Yes, I will screen share. Yes, my apologies. I will put up the list again for the sake of the panelists. There we go. Here we go. So yes, there are your semifinal matchups once again. So who do you think is most likely to pull off an upset against either Alex Jacob or Matt Jackson?
Are you talking in the semis or in the final?
I'm talking in the semis.
Mm-hmm.
Just in the semis, okay. Well, wouldn't be anybody from Monday then.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, here's hoping. It's Catherine on Wednesday.
Right. Let's give the correct answer.
On Tuesday, I like Brennan a lot. I think he's really smart. If he can get a jump on the signaling device, I think he stands a really good chance. And Vaughn's no slouch either. But if I got to pick somebody, I'd pick Brennan. I know. Yeah, my son does too.
Originally,
go ahead, David.
Originally, I had Brennan on his game to come in third against Vaughn and whatever. I was proven majorly wrong on that. My instinct is still telling me, Brennan, I don't have fun chasing Brennan. It's going to be Vaughn for sure. So knowing that, it's probably definitely going to be Brennan. Because I was way off on the estimation of Brennan.
And I hope I'm not going to offend anyone by saying this, but I almost have a feeling that if it's going to be anyone, I think Vaughn, just by virtue of his age, I think Vaughn might have the best shot, just because his knowledge base might not intersect Alex's as much as Brennan's might.
It's gonna depend a lot on the boards.
Yes,
one thing that I could see happening, depending, I could see Matt missing a final Jeopardy and losing that way if either Catherine or Andrew is shrewd enough to pick it up. That's something that I was thinking. Because I just in seeing Matt Jackson's games that he is missing some final Jeopardies even if they're inconsequential.
The Cuban Missile Crisis or something.
That might also be part of Alex Jacob's strategy. He has also been missing some inconsequential finals. So I'm not entirely sure. But It's something to think about. But I would agree that yes, Matt's final Jeopardy record hasn't been the strongest.
But then his final Jeopardy record hasn't needed to be the strongest. Because he puts away big games, and I mean that's what could make him win the whole Tournament of Champions. He could miss every single final Jeopardy in the Tournament of Champions and still win.
It's true.
Now, David, I think you had a question. I'm not sure if anyone on the panel here tonight might be related to it, but maybe these guys know. Go ahead. I think you had a question about the local contestants.
Yes, I was wondering when I was inputting the Friday game, I noticed that both Scott and Michael were from the Los Angeles area, and I know that usually when there's contestants in the Los Angeles area, stay at home so that you don't have to put up a hotel or anything for them. But I know that for the TLC, they have kind of more fancy accommodations, and they have the big does anybody who was in the 2018, do they know if Scott and Michael stayed in the hotel with everybody else?
I know Michael did.
Michael.
I know
Michael did.
Yeah.
I had breakfast with Michael one morning, and he said that they had specifically asked that he stay at the hotel, just that everybody was in one spot, and then the shuttle ride from the hotel to the studio is when Maggie did the contestant thing.
So Scott too was on the shuttle ride then.
He was on the shuttle. Yeah.
But he wasn't at the hotel.
I have no idea.
I don't know. I didn't ever see him there, but.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned that Michael specifically asked to be at the hotel, which I get the impression then that Michael and Scott had the option of not being at the hotel.
I don't know if it was that, or I don't know if if they asked was like a euphemism or something. But at any rate, Michael was at the hotel. I don't know if Scott was or not, but there were other people I didn't run into at the hotel either. I didn't run into Matt at any point at the hotel, but he was there. So.
Okay.
I could see the powers that be asking everybody to stay at the hotel just because of the logistics of traffic and getting everybody to where they need to be at the right time.
Yeah.
But I guess for your tournament, did you have any locals there?
I think John was the furthest west from what Ben might have mentioned, but
yeah.
Okay.
Arthur had stayed at his mom's house during his regular run in the Los Angeles area somewhere, but I think he stayed at the hotel during the TLC.
About it, yeah, because in the Mental Floss article that he wrote, he talked about how the hotel is next to Universal and don't touch the handrail on the way to Universal. And I verified that was correct.
Yeah, so did my husband.
Yeah.
Although why they put us next to Universal, leaving an hour drive to the studio, was something that none of us could really.
I wish it was an hour drive.
6 weeks.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
They started doing it for Kids Week so that the kids could go to Universal, and then they just started putting everybody there for all the
Maybe it's a better hotel than the DoubleTree. I mean, I haven't stayed in either, but I'm guessing that the TLC hotel is better.
DoubleTree is decent.
It was higher end.
fine.
Yeah, which means everything you pay for out of pocket is like twice as expensive. Yay!
Oh.
Of course I want to pay $24.
Yeah, but you can afford it.
I was actually asked if they were going to put us up at the Beverly Hilton.
Oh.
They Justin's year they put them at the Intercontinental in Century City, right next to the plaza, right next to the tower in Die Hard. But that was because like you couldn't walk anywhere. You like had to, nothing was walkable. At least with Universal, they're all like restaurants and everything that are right there that you can walk to.
I walked to In-N-Out Burger.
Yes,
my brother did too. And it was very, very shady, and we almost died.
My brother was in Tom Green's parking lot.
I have an interjection here, sorry. For those of you who are in Learned League, there was a question about Remington this week. And apparently, I was playing Colby that day in Learned League, and he mentioned to me that he only got the Remington question because apparently they have a whole bunch of his art at the hotel they put him up at for the Tournament of Champions.
Yes.
Was it so? Yes, there's a. You guys were at the same hotel.
Yes, well, at least I remember seeing at least one Remington-esque statue in the lobby and thinking, that looks like Remington. I didn't actually go over to it and look at it and verify that it was, in fact, Remington and not some imitator or something. But
So this means that there will be no TOC ever where Remington will be an answer. Kind of tying into the movie thing.
I don't know. I know I got lucky because I spent the Monday before taping at the Getty Villa in Malibu, which is like classical antiquities, a lot of which are from like Pompeii and Herculaneum, and then Herculaneum.
Yes. Yep.
I'm not sure I would have gotten that had I not just spent the day before at the Getty Villa.
But
So,
that was of your own volition. I mean, if
Yeah,
they have
yeah,
Remingtons at the
but-
hotel that you're staying at, it
Yeah,
might be
but-
a Remington question in the TOC.
yeah.
So while I let's see. Okay. According to Steve Bondeman, the wedge of cheese is Wolf Blitzer. Steve, I have one thing to say to you. I'll put it up again if you'd like, but please note the score reads positive 4,000 and not negative 4,000. And according to Matt Carberry, apparently this is a perfect excuse not to watch the Democratic debate. Okay. Oh, I think I just got told about someone's pop culture knowledge by Steve Bonneman. I'm not sure if this is repeatable on live panel, but apparently Steve Bonneman can attest to Alex's old school pop culture knowledge. So, something to keep
Alex
in
Jacob.
mind. Yes, Alex Jacob, yes.
Yeah, because Alex Trebek's pop culture knowledge is all old school. We all know that.
Yes. Very old school, but yes, that's
Yes.
Okay. So I'm at the point, actually. Does anyone on this panel have any questions for anyone else on the panel at this point?
Obligatory Ben Ingram, what'd y'all have for lunch during the semifinal and finals taping?
Ooh, yes.
Cheeseburger.
I had salad. We get to go to the commissary, so that was good, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a sandwich, pretty basic turkey sandwich. You know, nothing crazy.
Yeah, I had a cheeseburger. To celebrate being able to eat, I had a cheeseburger.
Ooh.
And Kristin, you were the alternate, so.
Yeah. I was really strategic about what I ate during my regular season run. Like I had like chicken Caesar salad for lunch and water to drink, and Karina buys candy bars every day and offers them to people, and I will always turn her down. So this time, let's see, during the quarterfinals, I had already taped. I knew I wasn't going to tape again that day, so I ate like a burger and candy and drank some soda. And for when I was the alternate, I had well, at that point I was done being the alternate because all three semifinals had taped. So I think I had like a sandwich or something and more candy. But
Actually, speaking of that, were there any instances in which you thought, geez, I'm actually going to be... Because during my TOC, a couple of people tripped at certain points.
no.
And so there was so I at one point made a joke of like, Ashok's gonna be Ashok was the alternate, and I'm like, Ashok's gonna make the show. You just watch. Someone is going to have someone is going to end up needing to go to the hospital. Everyone's tripping all over the place.
No, I was just trying not to think about it. I didn't want anything to happen to anybody, like.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
I
once you became the alternate for the semis, I think maybe you might have changed your views on that.
No, because I liked everybody. I mean, like Dan, I was in the elevator when I was riding down to catch the meet you guys to catch the shuttle. Your mom was in the elevator with me, and she recognized me, and she was all excited, and she's like, "Oh, I hope you get to play. I hope you do well." And I was like, "No, please, don't hope I play. Thank you very much. That's so nice of you, but no, if I play, something bad happened, you know."
Yeah, that was the first thing she said. She was like, "Oh, I really put my foot in my mouth talking to Kristin in the elevator."
I was so excited, and I felt so bad having to be like, "Thank you, but no," you know.
Yeah. I don't think she fully understood the circumstances that would lead to you playing.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? And thank you, by the way, for saving me on missing the obligatory Ingram question.
Not really a question for the other contestants, but I know, Andy, before we went on, you mentioned that you were going to bring this up, and you didn't, about the difficulty of 2014 versus 2015 tournaments. And I keep track, I always watch the show and keep track of my own COIATs in part so that I can improve for whenever I get the call. And I was averaging out my COIATs for the 2014 and 2015 ones. When I watched the 2014, just the quarterfinals, I averaged 15,360. And for the 2015 quarterfinals, I averaged 18,480. So I guess 2015 maybe a little bit easier that way.
Or you're just really a lot smarter this year.
Well, look, I also get daytime Jeopardy, so right now it's playing the 2014 in repeats, and even though I averaged 15,000 first time, now I'm averaging 25,000 for watching the 2014. But maybe that's just because I remembered half the clues from last year.
Well, that's true, yeah.
Or it could be smarter.
Okay, so yeah,
I didn't want to do all that math and not have it bring up on the panel.
Sorry about that.
That is
You know what?
math.
It's funny. You know what? I almost thought you guys were going to try to bring up. You were going to be like, so Andy, what were you drinking tonight?
So Andy, what were you drinking tonight?
Yes, of course. Yes, I will put this up. Yes, the local Stonehammer Brewery. They have some of their stuff out. This is I had their dark lager this evening. And, sorry, their dark ale.
Let's get hammered on Stonehammer.
Yeah, well, not quite. If anyone's in Guelph, I actually have a card here for a free brewery tour. So if anyone is interested in going with me to the Stonehammer Brewery tour, it's up in the northwest end of Guelph. Please let me know, and I would be happy to go with you. Because brewery tours are always fun because you get to obviously sample all of their offerings. So.
Is that an offer to those of us on the panel or to anyone watching?
Anyone
watching? Go on a brewery tour with anybody?
I would go on a brewery tour with just about anybody, so...
I don't know, I've toured the Mint and they don't give out free samples.
That's unfair.
That's something for the Trudeau government to start putting in. Free samples when you tour the Mint.
No, when I toured a Mint, the only thing they gave out free was the shredded. They did give out little packages of the shredded bills, and my brother and sister and I we put in some jigsaw puzzle work because if you could get half a bill together, you could get it. It did not work out. They did give out free samples, just
unusable.
Shredded.
Yeah.
The Canadian Mint will start to give out pennies.
Ooh. Ooh, boy. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yes. Steve, a couple of comments. Oh, my bad. It's Mirror Universe Wolf Blitzer. And no one is in Guelph. I should point out.
Just hear a Wile E. Coyote ping and all this flower.
I should point out that this is Guelph, Ontario, population over 100,000, not Guelph, North Dakota, population over 100.
I didn't know there was another Guelph.
There was another Guelph. And
There's not another Winnipeg, I know that.
also from June, he hasn't tracked this quantitatively, but it feels to him like the first two rounds are easier and Final Jeopardy is harder.
Except mine.
Yes, except yours.
You always have that gimme thrown in there, I guess.
I don't know. Sometimes I think the writers do it on purpose to test strategy. You know, if
it might. I'm starting to think that because it seems like every year there's always one gimme Final Jeopardy thrown in.
You know, like Maggie says at the auditions, it's not called Jeopardy for nothing.
Yeah.
By the way, I just thought of something. What was, in your opinion, what do you think was a more egregious judging decision? Them accepting Whistler's mother on Jeopardy on Thursday, or Thurston Integrity accepting Sierra?
Oh.
No, inadvertently this week.
That question, that reversal cost me a promotion because I had a win go to
No, I'm not talking about Bud Light. I'm talking about Sierra versus
I'm sorry.
Sierra Madre. Yeah.
I would go with Sierra, and I say that having answered Sierra on mine, it wouldn't have made a difference in my score. I still would have won, but I say that as the greater egregious.
I did Sierra, and I saw it was Sierra Madre. I was like, oh, wow. I was thinking, Sierra because of Sierra Madre. So I was like, thought Sierra was the more generic. And so I thought, that's wrong.
Sierra, plain Sierra.
I mean, because it's not what those called.
My opponent forfeited, so I guess it doesn't matter.
So yes, okay, so let's see here. Jason, for your edification, the question was, several mountain ranges in Mexico, including those specified as Occidental, Oriental, and Del Sur, all share what name?
I really think you should have the full for that. Maybe that's me. I mean, I've never seen them not have the Madre part. And there is Sierra Nevada.
Yeah, that's what I put. And so if he's going to accept Sierra, wouldn't he have to accept any Sierra word after that? Because
but they don't call it Sierra Nevada down in Mexico.
No, but if he's going to accept Sierra, my point is that if you put Sierra as the first word, then no matter what you put after that, he would have to accept that, right?
But he didn't.
No, he didn't, but you're...
that I know.
If you put the correct response, it doesn't matter what you put after that as long as the correct response is first. So if he's going to take Sierra as a correct response...
I think, though, if it makes it wrong, then if it makes it wrong, then it would be like... I'm trying to think of a quick example.
You put Sierra Leone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sierra Leone is wrong.
Yeah.
But that's not the way his algorithm works.
Jason?
What?
You're not in Learned League?
I was playing in Learned League for a while, and I kind of got tired of it. To be honest.
Okay.
Okay. So according to Steve Bonderman, Sierra not even close. And we now have the second ever. We have the second ever reference to the Guelphs versus the Ghibellines.
Oh, he had the other one, didn't he?
No, the second reference was made by Paul Paquette. The first one was made by Paul Paquette, and now the second one is Steve Bonderman. Is there a Ghibelline Ontario? And there is not. So. Okay. Do we have any other questions from anyone else on the panel at this point? Open season, I hear crickets. So for that, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in tonight here on Jeopardy Live panel. as well as all of our panelists. For those of you who are competing next week, best of retroactive luck to you. And who just played the cricket? That was you, Sarah, wasn't it? I saw you turn Google Effects on earlier, so.
I wasn't quite ready to go at the moment that you asked it, but better late than never.
Yes. So for everyone at the JeopardyFan.com, best of retroactive luck to our semifinalists next week. I, for one, well, I guess now that my parents figured out that I'm going to Boston, I look forward to watching the second semifinal in Boston on Tuesday.
You were trying to keep it from them?
Trying to keep it from them. But they figured out I was going, and so it's like, no, I might as well publicly announce. I'll see you if you're going to be in Boston to watch the second semifinal. I'll see you there, and I'll hopefully enjoy it.
I've got fan of Dan buttons out the wazoo. His mother was extremely generous. So
I was just keeping them somewhere else, Kerry.
I love all the swag you guys have this year.
Oh, that is awesome.
Just more and more year after year, the hashtags, the T-shirts, the buttons, the hats, everything.
I would have worn my Team Kerry shirt again tonight, but it's in the wash in preparation for later this week. So.
Excellent.
Yes.
I received more Entourage hats in the mail today too, so
good.
We're all set.
So you're going to be in Boston on Monday, Andy?
I'm going to be in Boston on Tuesday.
On Tuesday.
Yes.
You're flying out there?
Yep. So, for everyone at the at Jeopardy Live panel and the JeopardyFan.com, I'm Andy Saunders. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let me just bring up the credits card as I always like to. Hopefully, I have not made any mistakes this one. Okay, looks like we're good. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you on the panel next weekend. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
All right, thanks.
Bye, everybody.